Hi everyone, welcome to another video of our JavaScript learning series. In this video, I am going to discuss you with one of the very important concept of JavaScript, and that is nothing but a you can say important foundation of JavaScript as well, right? So here are the topics that you can see we are going to discuss in today's class. So will be discussing what is the variable, what is the introduction to variable, and also what are the different keywords that we use for creating a variable, right? So we'll be first clearing all the doubts about the what is difference between var, let, and constant. Also, we'll see what is the difference between the uh, in terms of scope, right? What is the difference between different type of declaration in case of scope, in case of hoisting, and in case of redeclaration or in case of reassignment, right? And when to use what type of declaration of variables, and also will some of the learning with a summary. And then with this is going to be a very good learning for JavaScript, you can say base setup, right? So before we continue about the variable declaration by using different keywords, those keywords are nothing but var, let, and constant keyword, right? Before we move to this topic, first let me clear one doubt is what is variable, right? So what is variable? What is variable? If you if I ask you what is variable, variable is nothing but you can consider like a container which holds some data, right? So we can say variable is like a container which hold data, and actually it is not going to hold the data, but it is going to refer to a data, right? It's like a container. Let's say I have a container, I can keep some data over here, and a variable which is going to refer this particular container, right? So this variable is not actually containing the data, but the variable is referring to the data that I want to use it in my program, right? So let's say I have a person, that person has its name, person has its age, person has its height, person has its weight. So the person has separate properties, right? To store all these properties, get to use the properties, I will be using the variables, right? That is the use of variable. When to use to inform, to store some data, to store some information, and that information we can use during the programming. So that is the use case of variable, right? Now to declare a variable, we know we can write it like this way. So if I say, I can say variable var a is equal to 10. I can say let b is equal to 12. I can say const const c is equal to 20. I can write this way. But let me ask you one question: when I should go for var, when I should go for let, and when I should go for constant? I hope you guys also might have come such kind of confusion, or might have get some kind of, you can see, issue sometimes, that you are facing some issue by using let, or you are facing some issue by using a var or constant, right? So what is the real concept, or what is the ideology when to use what type of variable, right? That is something we are going to you can say clarify in this video. So we'll be going to directly into the coding, and from there we will be seeing that what is the difference between this type of variable declaration, right? I'll go to the my this is my uh, Visual Studio Code, VS Code, and here I'll be writing this code, okay? And let me first declare a variable. Let's say var a is equal to 10, and also I am declaring let b is equal to, let's say, 12, and I am saying const, and const c is equal to, let's say, 15, right? I have declared three different variables with three different keywords: var, let, and constant, right? So yeah, let me print the variables that we have created. So I can say console dot log, and I can print the variables with the name of the variables, right? I can print this way. So if I run this code, let me go to my terminal, and here I say node, and I see the name of my file, so I can say we are getting the output, right? There is nothing, no, you can see nothing we have done so far. We just created three variables with three different type of variable declaration, and we are just printing it, right? Let me do one thing. Now let's try to change the data and see what is the behavior, right? So if I take this way, you can see we are changing the data of A, changing the data of B and C. We're trying to change the data and we're trying to print it. Let's see what is the output we are going to get, right? Whether we are able to modify the data or not, right? So if I run this code now, here you can see we are getting the output, and here you can see we got an exception at line number 12. At line number 12 we got the exception. This is the line number 12 and this is the exception. That means JavaScript is not allowing us to change the variable which is we are declaring as a constant. So once you have declared the value of a constant type of variable, you cannot change it. Rest of the cases, let and var, it is not thrown any error, right? Thrown any exception. So we can we mark it like we cannot change const cannot be changed, right? So but for in case of var, we can change the data, right? We can say for let also we can change, but for const we cannot change. So let me comment this out. Okay, and let me run this code once again. So I'll clear the screen, I'll run once again. You see there is no error. Now we are able to change the data of A and B, but C cannot be changed. So now from here you must have understood that when to use constant variable, right? So in such cases, when you have a requirement that you do not want to change the value of a variable, that time you should you must go for a constant type of variable. I hope this is clear to you guys. Now let me go in more deep on coding, right? So let me just give a line separator. Now let's try to understand the difference between uh, variable and let. Okay, so we are trying to change, we are trying to reassign the variable. Let's say if I say var a is equal to redeclaration, so var is equal to 20. If I say and I want to print the data console.log 20, right? If I run this code now, if I run this code now, you see I'm getting an error, right? Why I'm getting an error? Let me see here. Oh sorry, there is a spelling mistake. Console, sorry. Okay, now let me run, clear it out and let me run the code again. See, we are not getting any error, we are getting the output. So right now the value of A is now holding 20. So we can redeclaration of the variable and we can reassignment. Redeclaration is possible if you are using the var keyword, but same thing if I try to use with the let keyword, right? So let me see that I am trying to redeclare the variable b by using the let keyword. Now I am getting an error. Can you see that error? Here it is showing me an underscore red mark, right? So it is giving and throwing me an error. So this is something not allowed when you are going for using the let keyword. Once the variable is declared, that variable cannot redeclared. So we cannot change redeclaration. We can say redeclaration is not allowed, right? But here in case of type of var, we can redeclaration is allowed. So this we cannot run at all. If you try to run, you will get an exception. See here, we got the exception. So we can run this code. So let me comment this out. Okay, console.log and then see. Okay, now this is something we have talked about, the redeclaration of code variables, right? Now say we want to change the data. We want to, that we have already seen, right? Now let us try to understand the scope, if the what we call as a functional scope. Okay, so what we call as a functional scope is COPE, functional scope. So what is the difference between functional scope of var type of variables and let type of variables? That is something we are going to learn here. Now what happened? Okay, so I'll be taking a function, let's say function, and I am giving a name, let's say var scope test. Okay, so this is a function I have created. Inside of this function I have taken a variable, let's say inside of the function I am taking a variable, let's say var d is equal to 30. So I can use that function variable inside of this function also, right? But what if I try to use that variable outside of the function? Can I do this? Can I use that variable? Is it possible or not? Let me comment this out first. Let me try to run cls and I am running the code. See here we are getting an error because the d I am calling over here, it is not available, right? And also it did not declare the variable, did not use this particular function, right? So let's say I am commenting this out, and after that I'm running this code now again. Now you see we are still getting an error. So that means the variable that we have declared inside of a function we cannot use outside of the function, right? So can we say cannot be used outside the function, right? But okay, now let me show you the same example for in case of, let's say, let variable, type of let, right? So we'll use console.log. Okay, so similar example we'll see with the let. Let's say let, and I'll be giving this variable name as e, and this one will be e, and this one is going to be e, right? Let me comment this out because this is going to be error. Okay, now let me run this code, and okay, now you can see e is also not possible to access, right? Here the value of d is printed because I have called this function, so value of d is printed over here, right? You can see that. Okay, sorry, let me say this one is e, right? And this one should be e. Okay, now let me run the code once again. See here, the function inside of the, from the inside of the function we are getting that print statement, but as soon as we are calling from it from outside of the function, that is not possible, right? So similar thing we can mention, cannot be used inside of the function, right? So I can comment this out, and we can end this. Okay, now let's move. Let me remove, let me run this code. So this is the current output, right? Now let's see what is the functional scope. Functional scope is nothing but, let's see I have a function, so I'm creating a function, let's say function har scope test, har test, and I'm getting a function. Inside of this I'm taking if, let's say true. Okay, and inside of this I'm assigning, declaring a variable called if. Okay, so inside of this I'm declaring once again another variable called if. I'm printing from the console itself, means from the this block of if. Inside of this block I am printing that, and outside of that block also I am trying to print that if, but we are inside of the function, right? That is what this is, a function level, and this is a block level. Okay, so what is the scope of this if block? That is from line number this to this, right? And this is at the functional level, this function level, right? Now let's try to call this function. We will see var test, right? So we will say this one as a var test. I am calling this function. This function should get called. It is true. It will come inside of this. This one should print, and this one, for this one, what is happening we are going to see. Let me run the code. Okay. Now you can see we are getting the output, means inside of the block of if we are getting the value of if, and at the same time we are getting the value of if outside of the if block also, right? This is the scope of the block. So if I declare a variable with the var keyword, and we are able to use that variable inside of the scope, at the same time we are able to use the outside of the scope. So let us see the similar example for using the let keyword, right? So we'll see console.log. So here right now you can see we have written the same code with the let keyword, and we are taking one another variable called g, and we are assigning value 40, and inside of the if block we are printing the value of if, and outside of the if block also, but inside of the function, right, we are trying to print. Now let's see what is the behavior we are getting. So if I clear the screen and running the code once again, you can see G, the first value is got printed, means printing from this console it is got printed, but next when we are trying to print this one we are getting an error, right? You can see G, it is not able to find, G is not defined. So what we can understand from here is, when you are declaring a variable inside of a block, this is a block, this is nothing but a if block, right? So if you declare a variable with let keyword inside a block, that variable is only and only accessible inside of that block only. Clear? Outside of the block you won't get access of the variable. So this is the difference between let keyword and the var keyword. This is one of the important difference. You are able to see that for the above case, for the variables we declared as var, we did not get any error, we did not get any exception, but in case of let keyword we are getting that exception. Clear? So let me write a note over here. So let variables declared inside a block cannot be used outside the block. Yeah, that's fine. Let me comment out this code, so it will not work. So let me run this code once again, so we are getting that output, right? Now let us try to understand one of the another good concept of JavaScript, that is a hoisting concept. Okay, what is the hoisting concept is in JavaScript? Let us see where what is the hoisting concept is in JavaScript. By default, if you are not declaring a variable, JavaScript automatically do it. Let's see what I mean. I mean, let's say I'm printing a statement here. I say x is equal to, sorry, I want to print the x value of x, and after that I am declaring it var x is equal to 10, right? So you can see here what is I am doing, and let me do the same for let also, let type variable. So let me say y is equal to 10. Here I want to print the value of y, right? So what happened? Let's see. So I'm clearing the screen and I'm running the code. Now here you can see we have got an exception at line number 61. So here it is giving me an exception. It is saying that there is type error, console is not a function. Console.log, oh sorry, doing some wrong. Console.log, right? Now let me run the code once again. Now here you can see first we got the print undefined. So for this case we got the print. If I comment this out, you can see we are not getting any exception. We clear this and run it once again. You see we are not getting any exception and it is printing undefined. Means when we are going to print the value of x, but before we have declared it, before we have assigned the data, it is actually creating it as the it is actually initially JavaScript. What it does, it automatically assign for us. So it is automatically nothing but when we say this type of use case, so what JavaScript does in backend, actually I'll show you. JavaScript in does backend, let's say I'm saying console.log, I'm saying x, and here I'm saying x equal to 5, right? Or x is equal to 5. When I say this kind of statement, what JavaScript does automatically, JavaScript automatically it convert it this way. It will convert this one as a var x, and then it will see console.log console.log x, and after that it will use that x is equal to 5. Now here you can see as the JavaScript automatically add this line for me. Now this variable x is declared, but it is not assigned any data. That's why this was printing me undefined, right? After that we are assigning the data as similar to we are doing over here. So in this case this variable keyword will not use here in JavaScript. Okay, so this is what happened in the backend. But same thing, if you are going to do with the late keyword, the story is going to different. JavaScript is automatically not going to do perform this one. So in this case, so what happen will be in that case console. If I see console.log, and if I want to print the value of y, and here in the below line I am saying let y is equal to 10, right? So if I write my code this way, JavaScript is not going to automatically add y is equal to this line. It is not going to add. So this one is not defined, right? So if something is not defined, not available in the code, so that means JavaScript is not able to find the variable what you are trying to use over here. In such case, JavaScript will throw us an error, right? So let's try to see this example. This one you can see we have written that way, and if I run my code, let's say cls, and I'm running the code, here you can see you got an exception, got an error. What is the error? The error you can see it is a reference error, and here the message you can see cannot access y before initialization. I hope this concept is clear now. Okay, now let's talk about some of the good practice, or you can say recommendation, right? Recommendation, when to use what type of recommendations of var, late, and constant, right? So what we can say here is you should use var only and only when you are dealing with the when you dealing with legacy code, or you can say you are working with a browser which is very old, right? Well, let's say you are working with the Internet Explorer, old version of browsers which is not updated, right? So in such case your late or constant is not going to work. So such case, so you can see old browsers, old browsers will not be supporting the late keyword. So you have to understand that what is the use case for you, and accordingly you have to choose your variable type. But ideally our ideally ideally we should avoid it. Okay, ideally if there is no such kind of scenarios that you have to use the legacy code, or you are on the old browser, then you should avoid using the var. Okay, so this is one of the uh, recommendation that we can provide over here. And let what is the use case of let is something that when for all other type of variables, different all the variables, you should go for let. Okay. And for all it is recommended to use let instead of var. Okay. And constant is nothing but when you want to declare a, you do not want to change the value of a variable. Okay. So in such case you should use the const keyword. So sometimes some of the cases you are dealing with the constant data, right? So such constant data you should not ever change. So you can mark those data, mark those variables as a constant keyword. Clear? Okay. So with this we are done with this today's session. In our next video we will be discussing with the different type of variables we have in JavaScript. Okay. And this code is also available in the GitHub location, and I will share the location of the GitHub link. Okay. Thank you guys. Thanks for watching. Yeah.